everybody has some type of advantage. If you're an engineer, you probably have an analysis type of advantage where you're great at analyzing deals and putting together spreadsheets and things like that. Other people may have capital. Other people may have a lot of time. So you just really want to work towards whatever advantage that you have that can get you to whatever your goals are.
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association, providing benefits and services to real estate investors and rental property owners for over 48 years. With your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group.
This episode is sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And Mike Murphy at JB Harrison Insurance, helping real estate investors to understand and choose their best options for all their insurance needs. Call 616-868-0050 or email mikem@jbhins.com. Hello and welcome to episode 151. My guest today is a California investor who specializes in acquiring and raising money for out-of-state multifamily properties. Powell Chee is the managing partner of Platinum Equity Partners, and he's incredibly knowledgeable about leveraging Meetup Groups, Facebook, and other social media to raise money for his opportunities. He's also a great guy with a lot of creative ideas that I know will be helpful to our listeners. Powell, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Brian. Happy to be here.
Why don't we just start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in real estate investing?
Sure. When I started real estate investing was probably about 5 years ago. And this is kind of like at the very beginning. So previous, no real estate involvement at all. But I was looking towards, I was listening to podcasts, reading books, trying to educate myself. And at that time, my brother and my dad and I all decided, hey, let's work together and let's figure out how to do something together. So my brother actually started a private lending business in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was living in LA, which I do as of right now. And so my portion or my responsibility was to raise money for that business, just to raise money for him in his private lending business. And so that's how I got started. And that went well for about a year or two. But then the private lending business really started to dry up in the San Francisco Bay Area. And there really just wasn't many more opportunities because of changing market cycles. And at that time, at about 2015, I ended up purchasing my own property because I decided that I would like to purchase my own property. I'd like to be an owner. I felt like that was my path of what I wanted to choose in real estate investing. And so I bought my first single family house, which was a house in Kansas City. Again, living in Los Angeles, buying a house in Kansas City. And then from there, that house was going really well. I felt really confident and felt like I needed to scale up a little faster than probably purchasing one house every year or so. So the next purchase I bought was a 40-unit building in Indianapolis. So I bought that in January of 2017, and also bought a single-family house in Memphis about the same time. And quickly, right after that, I would say started that apartment started to go pretty well, and I figured I could look to buy another one. So then I looked to raise a little bit of money with friends and family and looked to take down a bigger building. It took down a 61-unit apartment building in January of 2018, and that's been my latest one.
So there's a lot of interesting things going on there, starting with the fact that you were doing all this and are doing all this while having a full-time job.
Yeah, that's correct. So, this whole time had a full-time job. My job is in corporate sales, so I have a lot of flexibility with my job, but I am on the road a lot. So that means I'm constantly listening to podcasts. That was one of the great thing about being on the road a lot, is that I would just listen to podcasts all the time. I know great podcasts such as yours that give listeners value, to teach people how to do things, how to also to find out other people who are doing these things. And that's really where I started to learn that, hey, I can invest out of state. Because to me, previously, I had only thought about investing in Los Angeles or in the San Francisco Bay Area. And that door I felt was pretty close to me. I just, the prices were so high that I was just thinking it's going to be so hard for me to ever buy a single family house at 500, minimum like 500,000, could go up to like 800,000. And these are like probably are on the lower end. So I don't know. I just didn't really feel that it was something that I was going to be buying anytime soon. And when you start listening to podcasts and start, you're on the road and working your full-time job, you find out there's other people that are doing the same thing. That was really inspiring to me.
I faced the same thing when I was living in Los Angeles, and this was back in 2001, 2002, which was, if I buy here, it's so expensive, I'm going to be cash flow negative. And the prices are just so inflated. So I too started investing out of state. The difference is that I was investing in all single families or condos out of state. You've kind of mixed it up. You bought a single family, but then you bought a 40 unit. So that to me is very interesting. How did you make that leap from a single family out of state to all of a sudden now you're going to go buy a 40 unit?
Yeah, that was just something, I just kind of put my mind to. And just before I kind of get into that, when you have a full-time job, a lot of people, like, when I tell them I'm in sales, I have a lot of flexibility. I can take phone calls, I can do emails, I'm on the road a lot. I can do a lot of things where I can communicate with people very easily. And that is my advantage, I guess, that I have. But everybody has some type of advantage, whether you are in any other type of field. If you're an engineer, you probably have an analysis type of advantage where you're great at analyzing deals and putting together spreadsheets and things like that. Other people may have capital. Other people may have a lot of time. So everybody has their advantage. So you just really want to work towards whatever advantage that you have that can get you to whatever your goals are. And so that being said, for me, I decided I really decided that I would like to scale a lot faster. I felt like when I really compared single families and multifamilies, I like single families, and I think that they're a great investment. I just found that as I started looking at it, I thought there was more power in multifamilies. And I just felt that there's the ability to force appreciation on a large scale, to me, felt like just a major driver towards picking up multifamilies, just going towards multifamilies rather than concentrating on single families.
Explain what that means. Force appreciation. What does that mean? Why is it you can do it with multifamilies but not single families?
Yeah, I mean, one of the major differences between multifamilies and single families is that single families are, the value of a single family house is based on the comparables. So the market comparables, whatever a house that is fairly similar in size, year built, quality, grades, and a location, whatever that particular house sold for is probably what your house is around what your house is going to sell for as well. But on the commercial side, which apartments are part of the commercial side, they're actually based on on your net operating income that you're able to bring in. So the more you can increase the value of your property by bringing in or increasing your net operating income. So whether that's increasing the actual income or decreasing the expenses, the value of your apartment is based on how much you can increase that NOI. So you can buy a building that maybe has a sort of a slim NOI. We generally call them maybe a value add property, is the ones that I concentrate on. And if you can increase that NOI by increasing the rents or rehabbing certain units to bring them back online or bringing out other ancillary income, you can basically increase the value of your property and that is what we call forcing the appreciation in a fairly short amount of time. You're not restricted, I guess, by the market. You can make this happen. In that, say, 5-year time frame, even shorter, that you can certainly increase a lot of value and make your property worth a lot more. And to me, that was a very attractive prospect.
Yeah, and that I love that about multifamily. And commercial multifamily is anything 5 units or above. And I've done that time and time again with my commercial multifamily, increase its value by forcing appreciation by increasing my net operating income.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's the the basics of it, and it's fairly easy to, I think, for people to understand that. And once you get outside of you understand the difference between single family and multifamily, and then from there it's just really the execution, and doing it. So, to me, just super attractive. When I think about that, I just think, wow, that just gets me really excited about what you can do, because you can control so much in a multifamily, and then hence control really your wealth out of it. So that's what I really like.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing.
Absolutely.
So you're let's step back here. So you're out of California. You do travel a lot. But you find your properties in Kansas City, and I know you mentioned the other areas. How did you end up finding these opportunities?
Yeah, so when I first started with the Kansas City property, it was first of all, it's choosing a market, and so that's one thing that I get asked a lot is, how do you choose your market? So when I was looking, the things what I was looking for was job growth in the market, population growth in the market, job diversity, and affordability would probably be my fourth one. And when you're looking at different markets in the United States, you just really want to make sure you verify those types of things, that those markets have those types of things, and and from there, once you identify those particular those markets, then you're able to go out and actually look a lot closer at what types of actually properties you would be buying. So I guess that would be my first thing, is just identifying the market that you would like to go to. I identified Kansas City, Indianapolis, and Memphis were the three that I chose. And from there, I just started looking at inventory.
I'd like to take a moment to tell you about Green Property Management. Not only do they manage everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area, they also manage my entire portfolio. So I can tell you from personal experience that their unique flat fee management style is worth a closer look. If you feel that your property isn't operating to its fullest potential, then Green Property Management can help you take a holistic approach that will save you money, eliminate your headaches, and increase your net income. And if you're a property manager interested in applying Green Property Management's model, give them a call at 1-866-95-GREEN or visit them on the web at greenpropertymgt.com. I did the same thing, years ago, and I identified the market by joining a kind of a networking group that was buying around the country in those types of areas. Mm-hmm. Did you just do your own investigation, or did you join some sort of networking group as well?
Yeah, I didn't join the networking group necessarily. I did. My first house that I bought, though, was a turnkey. Was from a turnkey operator. So they had the house. So the house in Kansas City was somebody that I bought. They had already purchased it. They had a property management ready to go in place. It was not occupied yet. But, they had kind of given me the value of what they thought the property would be. I bought it in a little bit unusual way. I actually bought it all through credit cards. And I purchased it eventually in all cash. And then I refinanced it right away to pull as much money of that cash out to pay back those credit cards. And
so wait a minute. So you paid all cash by using credit cards for this first property.
Yes. So that was my first property. I bought it. I just basically took all these credit cards.
Why did you do it that way? Did you not have time to get a proper loan?
No, I could have. I just, it was one of those things that I felt it was going to be the most advantageous for me, because I felt like if I could buy a property that was going to appraise for more than I was going to purchase it for, I would be able to refinance all or most of my money out. And I actually was able to execute on that plan. So, numbers wise, we can get into the numbers if you'd like, but the numbers wise, it all worked out pretty well for that, for that property, which is really kind of what propelled me.
Let's get into those numbers, because you had a very creative strategy using credit cards. So I am very curious how that worked out, number-wise.
Sure. Okay. So again, took all these balance transfers and basically pulled off all this cash from these credit cards, multiple. I mean, we're talking 10 credit cards or so.
How much did you have to come up with?
The purchase price of the property was $92,000.
Okay.
So I had about $92,000. Purchased it again in all cash. Closed on it, and then I felt the property was probably going to appraise for more like 105, and so I felt like I would be able to refinance a lot of my initial cash out. But I actually got lucky. Well, I don't know if I got lucky, but the appraisal came in at 122, so 122,000. Again, I purchased for 92, so I was able to take out 70% of the appraised value at that point. So I ended up only putting, so my loan on the property was $84,000. So I basically only had $8,000 of cash actually in that property. And so to me, that property, the Kansas City property, it brings in, every month it brings in like $300 in cash flow. I generally say I count about 200 of that as real cash flow, as net cash flow after all expenses. So I would say $200 per month that I make on that property, and I only put in $8,000 in it, so it makes like 30% just cash on cash, just on that, not including now that it's it's worth about $140,000, and I only have my loan on it is only $84,000. So it's turned out to be a real good investment.
Yeah. And your payback on that is about 3.5 years with the cash flow you're making.
Yeah.
Well, so, and I want to make sure I understand your purpose in doing that. So if you had gotten a loan just from the sale, the loan would have been based on the acquisition price, not the appraised value. Is that correct?
That's correct. And also the turnkey provider at the time gave me a discount for purchasing it in cash. So if I would have purchased it through a loan, it would probably have been maybe $98,000. We'll just say around $100,000. So I would have probably put down $20,000 to $25,000, I would say, towards the purchase and closing costs and things like that for that particular property. So instead of having $20,000 to $25,000, we'll say $22,000 out of pocket, I ended up with just $8,000 out of pocket for that property.
When it comes to rental property insurance, understanding the costs, choices, and benefits can be overwhelming, and finding the right insurance provider can be frustrating. I had one company cancel 5 of my policies all at once for no good reason, and that's why I'm happy to have Mike Murphy from JB Harrison Insurance on my team. Mike is an independent agent who has always been able to find the right policy and the best provider for my insurance needs. Over the past 5 years, Mike has not only become my go-to insurance agent, he's also helped me manage risk, add value, and save money. If you are looking for insurance on a new acquisition, or you believe it's time to get a more comprehensive look at your entire portfolio, then Mike Murphy is the independent agent to call for all your insurance needs, auto, home, and business, at 616-868-0050, or email mikem@jbhins.com. So once you took it down with cash, you were able to go back later, get it reappraised, and get a loan for that amount rather than the amount that you actually paid for the property.
Yes, although that process happened basically right away, almost immediate. Well, basically immediately. So that I didn't have to wait that long because they have a certain loan program, but that you can do this, you can refinance within 6 months. So you have to do it within 6 months. And they'll appraise it and they'll give you the loan based on the appraisal amount. So it wasn't that I had to wait very long. It was actually very quick that after I purchased it in cash that I was basically working on the refinance right away.
Well, I really like the creativity you put into that. That's a great way.
It was great. It was fun. It was great. I'm excited about it, but I would tell you I don't do it again. Like I wouldn't do it again necessarily, and I don't recommend for people to do that. I felt like I was fairly educated at that point to go ahead and take on something like that. But I don't recommend that people go ahead and take a bunch of money off their credit cards and do that. And it's not something that I would necessarily do again. My credit score actually took a big hit for that, but it recovered really quickly. But it's not something I would continue to do, but it's something that I'm very glad I did, because it really propelled me into what is now my focus, which is multifamily.
Yeah, it's a sophisticated strategy you use that, because you knew what you were doing, you were able to make it work. But there is some risk to what you did there.
Yeah, absolutely. There is some definite risk into that, and so it's not something that I recommend to people to do. But again, like once everything that happened, and I was feeling just very confident that this is working, and now this is starting to prove itself that it's working. Now that really made me want to go, okay, well, I know that multifamily people say, that it can work, and I'd like to prove it to myself that it can work. So that's why within the next year, I ended up purchasing that next 40 unit building.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. You bought that single family. That sounds like you did quite well with it, and then you're like, okay, let's go after a 40 unit. How did that come onto your radar? How'd you find it, and were you able to take that one down?
You know what? So once I identified the markets, what I tell people is once you've identified your markets, you really got to start looking at inventory fairly quickly. So you don't want to get stuck on the markets all the time. So I identified those 3 markets, and then I started looking at inventory, because I felt I was comfortable in any of those 3 markets where if I felt I found a good property, I would go ahead and look to purchase one of them. So I just started analyzing a lot of deals. I basically started analyzing a lot of deals mathematically, using formulas, using spreadsheets and things like that, and figuring out what would be good prices to purchase these actual properties. So I found a lot of deals that were okay, not great. I was sending off some letters of intent, some LOIs to brokers, but they were significantly below the asking price, and I kind of knew that I didn't have a great shot at necessarily landing any of those particular deals, and I wasn't very excited about any of the deals that I was seeing. But I just kept at it, kept at it, got better and better at analyzing the deals, and get better and better at talking to brokers, better and better at knowing the areas and things like that. And then one day I just happened to come across a listing for that 40 unit, and I looked at it and I said, wait, I don't even remember how I actually navigated to that website that got me there. I just ended up on this site that I had never been on before, and I saw this 40 unit building, and I said, is this right? I don't think this can be right, just based on the price, the age of the property. Initially what I'm thinking, I thought, I don't know if this is right. So I immediately just called the listing broker, and she said, yeah, it's available, and gave me a little bit about it and said that she'd send over some more information. And then she sent over some more information, and I said, no, this looks really good. I mean, this after you've analyzed a lot of deals, you start to realize which ones come through that are really, you get you excited. So I got really excited about that one. Basically told her, sent in an LOI within 24 hours of her sending me the information. And from there, negotiations a little bit back and forth, and then pretty soon I was under contract. I was accepted LOI under contract and moving forward with that property.
Wow. So was this just not listed on the regular market, or it sounds like a magic website you found?
Yeah, I've looked, and it was not on, it wasn't on LoopNet or anything. At the time I was looking at LoopNet, I was looking at other broker sites. I was looking at the major broker sites and things like that. I didn't see it anywhere. It just happened to be on some sort of random site that was on there. And I think it was because the listing broker was not a commercial broker. I think she was a residential broker, and just didn't either list it right, or for some reason didn't pop up on those other sites, or for some reason it just didn't pop up on those other sites. So yeah, it got in a ways, I guess I kind of stumbled across something, and got lucky.
Yeah, you got lucky because the seller didn't realize that he needed a commercial broker to sell his commercial property. When you list a commercial property with a residential broker who isn't familiar with that world, this is what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
but
that's what happened.
You. Yeah,
yeah. And so I got lucky, but I knew that I had to jump on that right away, because as lucky as you want to be, there's always somebody else that's going to find it too, and probably try to tie that up as soon as they can too. So yeah, I had to jump on it really quickly.
There's a big difference between evaluating a single family rental and evaluating a multifamily rental property. Where did you learn how to do the evaluation and your due diligence and running your numbers on a multifamily commercial property?
Yeah, with that, a lot of that started with as much free information as I could find, right? So listening to as many podcasts, books that I would be getting from the library, or reading forums and things like that online, getting as much information as I could that was free. And then I got to a point where I said, okay, now I think I need to join a mentoring group, or join something that can give me a little bit more of a solid, tools to use, and how to actually evaluate the deals. And so I joined a group that had that, and from there, that really gave me the confidence that I was analyzing the deals in a professional manner.
And were you happy with the group? Did you get the information you were hoping to get?
Yeah, I mean, I thought basically it wasn't sort of a group yet. It was an analyzer. It was basically a deal analyzer, and that deal analyzer really helped me, feel comfortable about what I was doing. It was actually not very expensive. And
what was it? I mean, feel free to give it a plug. What was it?
Oh, sure. It was Michael Blanc's syndicated deal analyzer. So, that you can find, pretty much anywhere, but it's online, and it's a really inexpensive deal analyzer. And from there, I just followed it was probably like an 8-step, 10-step program of how to analyze a deal and how to talk to brokers. And from that, I just followed that and was able to put that 40 unit under contract. And his deal analyzer only costs a couple $100. I mean, it's basically under $150. And so I just, from that, you spend only $150, you learn how to analyze a deal and put a 40 unit deal under contract. It's certainly worth it.
Yeah, and let's emphasize the point that if you're investing in multifamily, even if it's single family, you should have some sort of deal analysis software, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet that you put together. As the deals get more complex, or that you get more units, and you get into that commercial world, you definitely want a professional analysis program where you can plug in all your income, your projected income, all your projected expenses, and that can really help you determine whether or not you're making a good investment.
Absolutely. That's almost the initial stage of investment. I tell people when they're interested in multifamily, they're asking, how do I get in, or how do I evaluate a deal? To me, I tell them, you have to find some like software like this, and you have to be able to use it comfortably, and you have to be able to know, you have to run a lot of deals so that you get comfortable at it. And to me, when you're spending under $150, it's certainly worth it. I mean, you can't say, I don't know. It's not a large investment into what could be a big turnaround in your future.
It's a very minor investment in probably one of the most crucial aspects of doing this type of deal.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, that's, once I got comfortable doing that and using that software and using it on many, many different types of buildings, and that's when I really, like I said, was able to find one and run the numbers again, and then think, wait a minute, this is something I got to really jump on. Could be something that's very, very different than I've seen. So
let's talk about your 40 unit then. So you ran it through the analyzer, and you're looking at the numbers. It's kind of in a way, it's sort of an off-market property, because it's certainly not on the market that other multifamily and commercial investors are looking at. What did the numbers tell you?
The numbers, I don't remember the exact numbers like going into it. But when I bought the property, when you're looking at a 40 unit property, the property purchase price was $820,000. So I was looking at, say, under $20,000 a door, probably a C minus area, built in 1984, which in Indianapolis is very new. Compared to the ones I was looking at, the properties I was looking at were 1930s, 1940s, 1920s. So the 1984 build is certainly a lot newer than that. So for me, when I just looked at just that, I was able to see like, okay, this is something that I got to look into a lot deeper. I got to call the broker really quickly to find out, what type of financials they have, maybe to run that analysis. But and when I did run the analysis, they didn't have great. That was one thing, that they didn't have really great financials. This was a person that was in sort of distress. That was trying to sell this property, so he didn't have great financials at all. But going into it, it was listed at like a 13 cap. When I sort of ran my numbers, I kind of more conservatively said it was more like I think I said it was a high 10 or 11 cap is what I was looking at.
Wow, which is still pretty good. So how were you able to take it down?
And when I took it down, when it comes down to it,
that's a lot of credit cards.
Yeah, I know. My wife would be happy to see all those credit cards come in. No, when I took it down, it was basically just me that I took it down. So me and my dad helped me out a little bit, but it ended up being just me really taking it down with this property. But I wanted it to be that way. I didn't want to step into a new asset like multifamily and try to raise money for it. I didn't want to take anybody's money and just have that pressure that I'm taking somebody's money that, I just didn't want that. I really was said, if I'm going to fail at this, if I'm going to make a mistake, which I'm likely to make some mistakes, I wouldn't even say likely. It's like I'm going to make some mistakes. Then I don't want to make it with other people's money. I'd rather make it with my own money.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, if you're able to take it down with your own money in the beginning, that's a great way to go, because then you can create your own track record, prove the concept, and then start bringing in other investors.
Yeah, and I wanted to prove the concept not only to other people, but I really had to prove it to myself too. I thought, hey, this all looks great on paper, it looks great on forums, sounds great on podcasts, but there's a big difference when you are actually doing it than just reading about it. And so I needed to prove it to myself, and then that would probably be to prove it to other investors down the road. But I would say that one thing that helped me decide this is that I knew how much money I had that I could put towards, say, the down payment, and I didn't go outside of that money. So that way I could limit what I was looking at. So I was saying, I'm going to look at something that is, $900,000 to, let's say, $500,000 to $900,000 is really my range. And I felt, okay, I'm going to take something down in that range because I know how much money I have that I can put towards this property. I think a lot of people kind of get caught in, well, I don't know what I should be looking at. Should I look at a $3 million project? Should I look at this $250,000, fourplex? Or should I look at, a $5 million property? Or should I look at a $3 million? You get caught in you don't know where to really focus. And so for me, it's just knowing that amount that I have that I can put towards that down payment. That's what really helped me solidify that I'm only looking for properties in this range. Say 500, mine was like 600 to 900,000. I'm only looking for stuff in that 600, 900,000. And so if something came out that was really good, but it was 1.4 million, I just passed on it. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I know what I want to look for. So I think that was very helpful.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to know your parameters, and that really helps save you time on what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So you were able to take this down. Did you get a commercial loan, or did you get some sort of? Because it sounds like there was a little bit of trouble with this property. Did you have the occupancy that you needed in order to get a commercial loan, or did you have any issues there?
So The occupancy was okay. I would say I probably took it over. It was around 85% occupied. It wasn't horrible, but there were some down units. There was 3 totally down units in there as well. But what I did is, I started talking to some of the regional local banks, things like that. But they didn't want to loan to me because I was an out-of-state investor. So they didn't want somebody that was out of state. So then I actually contacted my local bank, which is a national bank. And I asked my local bank, I said, hey, is this something that you would loan on? And they said yes. And so I was kind of surprised because I didn't hear about that a national bank is somebody that you would approach to as an out-of-state investor. It's not something that I'd heard about previously. And so then they were able to work with me, and it ended up being a very long process, but they ended up working with me to the point where we were able to take it down. Now, however, the loan they gave me is a recourse loan because it's with a national bank. But it also, they said, we're going to actually just make it a very short term because, you're unproven. This is your first commercial building. So they gave me a 1-year loan on it. And they said, well, look, we'll give you a 1-year loan on it. Just to know, we will be able to extend it, but we want to just, if it's not going well, then you only have 1 year on it. And after that 1 year, things were going well, things were improving. So they decided to extend it for another 1.5 years. Now, so that's where I have it right now. It's still under that 1.5 year loan. So these are very short-term loans, but they said the reason they gave me a 1.5 years was because I haven't shown any tax returns yet on this property. So they don't have any tax returns. So they can only see what I give as my P&Ls, and they actually want to see my tax returns. After that, they said after seeing my tax returns, they'll probably be able to extend it to, say, a 5-year loan if I would want that. But to me, I'm looking at getting another loan. I'll probably be looking at getting another loan at the start of the new year and trying to look for loans that are more long-term than, say, 5 years. More like a 10-year loan is what I'd be looking for.
Yeah, you should definitely check out the Freddie Mac small apartment loan program. Have you thought about that one at all?
That is one that I've thought about as well, too, yes.
It sounds like, I'm not sure of the exact loan amounts, the thresholds that they have, but it sounds like your property would be perfect for that. And you could get at least a 10-year fixed with a really good interest rate and really good terms with the Freddie Mac. You were facing some uphill battles in getting this loan, I'd imagine, because A, you're not from the area, and you mentioned that. B, you didn't really have a track record in multifamily. And C, well, I don't know, but did you have any sort of team on the ground?
Team on the ground really was, I started building that, when I was putting this purchase, when I sent in my LOI, it was really when I started building my team on the ground. So I do have a third-party property manager who runs it, runs that building. And I was going to have that anyway, because I'm not going to manage a 40-unit building from, across the United States. I don't even manage my single-family house that's in Kansas City. So I'm not going to do that. And so I knew I was going to have a third-party property manager, but the bank also required that. So that was one of the requirements, and which is fine. I mean, that was going to happen anyway. But yes, I mean, there was a lot of things that that I kind of went through. I had to go through you have to go through a phase one, as always, when you do these, and the phase one.
That's the phase one environmental, to make sure it's not a toxic waste dump.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things popped up on that phase one that the bank kind of got scared about. And so I had to go through a phase two. And so that was, another whole process of going through a phase two. It certainly extended the length of the closing. But I went through a phase two, and but the bank still worked with me. They still just said, as long as you get it done. They kept telling me, yeah, it can do it. We're going to do it. You just need to get all these things done, get them all in order. And once I, just kind of crossed those steps, every time they kind of gave me a hurdle, I just would complete whatever they needed to get done, and then eventually I got everything done, and it was looking, we ended up closing the property. So
yeah, I really appreciate the fact that you bought this 40 unit, and it sounds like you heard a lot of no's in the beginning from lenders. Like, you're not in the area, we don't want to loan to you. But you kept going, and you found a bank, a national bank, that was willing to lend to you. And then, as you say, every step of the way, there's some sort of roadblock that's thrown in front of you. And when you're, especially when you're buying your first multifamily, this happens all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many times that, there was things going on that I didn't know anything about. I didn't know, I'd never really heard of anybody going to a phase 2. Like, they usually say, if you go to a phase 2, that's not a good sign. You probably don't want to go to that property. But so, things like that were just brand new to me. A lot of the things that the bank was saying were just kind of brand new to me. Just even simple things. Like, I remember going to visit the property for the first time and meeting the broker, right? And I also met my inspector there, who had done the inspection report on the property. And I'm meeting the property manager, and we're all meeting at the same time. I drive up, and we're all meeting at the same time. And I'm thinking, I don't even know what to do. Like, who do I talk to? Like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go or what I'm supposed to talk about, and I'm supposed to be the owner here. And the broker said, oh, well, I'll give you and your team some time to talk and, walk around, and feel free to meet us over here. And I said, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I guess that's probably what I should do, is talk to my team and go over some of the reports and some of the, things, the findings in the inspection. And I could also talk to my property manager at the same time and, get some ideas about what he thinks about the property, the location, everything like that. But just simple thing of just like showing up and saying, I don't even know what I'm going to do. I remember telling my wife, she's like, what are we going to do when we go to this meeting? I said, I honestly don't know. I think we're just going to have to sort of wing it as we go, but we're going to, we're here to make this happen. So, we'll do it.
There's definitely a certain amount of faking it till you make it, because you get into these meetings with people, experts, people who have their specialty, and at some point all eyes turn to you, and they're like, what do you want? What should we do? you gotta have an answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I was, caught in that position, and there was a lot of times where this property would have things that come up that I didn't know about, that I'm asking probably very rudimentary questions, and people are thinking, wait, aren't you the owner? And I'd say, yeah, I'm going to be, but I guess I don't know the answer to these questions, and
questions questions are always the best strategy. If you don't know the answer, just ask more questions.
Yeah, I certainly had to use that strategy a lot.
And don't be afraid to ask dumb questions, because chances are there's someone else who doesn't understand it, just like you. Yeah. So what are you doing to capture the upside on this property? Like, what's the upside strategy? So,
this property, like I mentioned, was going into distress. It was actually starting the early stages of the foreclosure, of going into missing payments and things like that. So, and the property owner was, I would say, a person that did not want to do any maintenance on the property. So he owned it for the past 10 years. And I think his method was, I'm going to give you cheap rent and don't bother me. And so that was really the type of tenants that he attracted. And so there was each of these unit turns that I've had to do has been a very significant unit turn. The units themselves are pretty trashed by the time that I have to turn them. So
how much would you say you're putting into each unit as you turn it?
We are doing what I call like our phase 1 turn, which is basically to get these units just in nice rentable condition. And we're probably putting in anywhere from $2,500 to $3,500 in each unit, somewhere maybe like somewhere around that $2,800 average per unit. And we're trying to save as much as we can, but we're finding that we can't save hardly anything. No cabinets, can't save hardly any of the appliances. Definitely no carpet. windows, sometimes we can't save those. Doors, things like that, just can't really save any of that. So just having to replace that and get livable, replacements for all that as much as we can. Get a renter in there, and then eventually what we'd be working on is what is more of our phase 2 type of turn, where it's going to be more of a nicer turn, because we've seen the actual property has been able to capture significant jumps in rent. And the reason I can see that is because there was a fire in one of the units, and just happened this year. And that fire, we just completed it in August in terms of the full renovation, basically full gut, tear down everything, and full renovation. So everything there is brand new. And that one is getting, the average, when I inherited the property, the average rent was about $460 per unit. And that one unit right now is bringing in $700 for that unit, for a brand new unit. Now, none of my other ones are necessarily bringing in $700, but I can see that the rent increase is I'm able to increase the rents a decent step, and I feel like down the line there will be another step where I can increase it even more if I do it actually another significant sort of rehab with a property.
What are you typically raising the rents to?
The rents right now are going about $525 for a single one bedroom, and then they're going for about $600 for the 2 bedrooms.
Okay.
And again, they were at $460 before, average for the whole property for just $460.
And how many units have you turned?
I've turned 27 of the 40 as of now. It's about, I would say, a year and 9 months at this point that I've owned the property. And I've turned 27 of those units. That's
great. So you're getting toward that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, one thing that I like to emphasize with people is that this property, one of the major mistake that I did is I didn't bring in enough capital in the beginning for capital expenses. I really just brought in money for the down payment, and I've been eating out of the cash flow for every month, and basically breaking even with the property every month, really just riding that line until I think about right now where the property is really starting to, like you said, show that end of, that light at the end of the tunnel. And it's starting to see where actually, okay, now the property is starting to really turn around now and starting to be, the maintenance isn't so high, the turns aren't so heavy. I don't have as many turns to do. I've completed 2 of the 3 totally down units. But the process has been slow. It's a year and 9 months that I've gone through this. So it wasn't a 6-month turnaround where I fixed everything right away and got everything done and totally turned around within 1 year, and the property is just doing absolutely great. I'm still in that phase of, things are turning around, but things are still on the incline right now. And that is because I really didn't bring enough capital to the property in the very beginning. So that is a mistake that I did, and I certainly want your listeners to don't repeat that mistake unless you want your property to take a long time to turn around. So don't repeat that mistake. Bring enough capital for the repairs, for anything that you're going to have to do on the property, and do them quickly and right away, rather than like I did, eating out of the cash flow every month. So
if you had followed your own advice in the beginning, how would you have brought in more capital? Would you have had to bring in a partner?
Potentially, yeah. Potentially, I would have had to, bring in another partner. I would have looked at something like that. Actually, for me, what happened was I had money set aside that I was going to use towards capital improvements. But what I ended up doing was I ended up using that money to go and look and purchase another property. So that money kind of got used in a different manner. So basically all my reserves and money that I was going to use towards improving this property went towards going to go purchase another property. And so I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that. I would recommend making sure that you have enough capital improvements to fix your first property and get it running as fast as you can.
Yeah, I always believe in going in strong. When you buy a property, you want to make sure you have enough money to improve it. However, I would say that it sounds like if you're able to manage these improvements out of cash flow, that's pretty good right there. And you also have to you can't just kick everyone out and start rehabbing the units. You kind of have to wait for their leases to expire, for them to move out. So it is a process that no matter what is going to take a certain amount of time.
Sure, and I think that is one thing that I've learned. It does take time. There's a lot of people feel like, as soon as you close a property, like say you all of a sudden you get a 100-unit property, that means that it's great and everything's doing well. It's not really like that. There is a turnaround phase. There is a time where it's going to take a little while for the property to get to where you want it to get to. And so to feel like as soon as you purchase something that all of a sudden it's going to be running great and perfect, that's a little outside of that's a little beyond expectations, I would think. And so that is something to keep in mind, certainly.
So I want to switch gears here a little bit and talk about your meetup groups, because to me, this is a really interesting aspect to you as an investor who's now raising money from other investors and working with other investors to help them learn about the process as well. Tell us about the meetup groups that you've put together.
Sure. So, here in Los Angeles, we have a number of different meetup groups that are all focused on multifamily real estate, or actually that are not focused on multifamily real estate. They're just focused on real estate investing in general. And so I looked around. And I didn't find anyone that I felt was what I was interested in, was investing in multifamily out of state. There's some that do in state, but nothing that does out of state. And so I've decided to start my own meetup group. And I started that in about December of last year. So December of 2017 was my first meetup group. And, your first one, I put it together in about 10 days. It was just something that I wanted to do before. I wanted to do it before Christmas because I knew everybody's traveling. So I had to do it early December, and it was already the beginning of December. And I thought, I want to do it something quick. I know it's not going to be big. I don't have a ton of expectations, but I was happy that, 8 people showed up. We all met in a hotel lobby. People were very excited. They seemed, like they're very glad that they came to the meeting and meeting other people that they've, engaged, and they're happy that something like this was coming about because there was people that were investing out of state, but they just didn't know anybody else that was investing out of state as well. And since then, my meetup group had continued to grow. So it kind of grew organically, and I had been meeting every month. And then after about, I would say about 4 or 5 months, I got very strong interest from the group to expand. And so people wanted to meet in other parts of the city because Los Angeles is a huge city and nobody wants to travel an hour and a half sitting in traffic, to try to make it to your meetup group. So we opened up a couple branches in other cities. And so 2 other branches we opened up. I worked with a couple other people and had them basically kind of follow the same format that I started, and from then, we as a leadership, there's 5 of us total in the leadership. 2 of them run the Long Beach chapter, 2 of them run the West LA chapter, and I run the South Bay chapter. And we all meet as a leadership probably once a month. We go have dinner and hang out with each other, see how things are going, how we're doing investing wise, if there's anything that we can help each other out with. But the groups have organically grown. We try to attend each other's meetups as often as we can. And the groups just continue to grow, and we really try to help each other out as much as possible. And I think that they've been a very good thing to start. If anybody is interested in starting a meetup group, I certainly got some pointers that I can help them out with starting one.
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. But first of all, what's the name of your meetup group?
It's Los Angeles Out of State Multifamily Investors.
And for anyone who's never been to a meetup group, you can go to meetup.com, and there are groups for just about any sort of interest that people could have. Mm-hmm. And it's just a great way to meet other like-minded people who are interested in similar things. In your case, it's people who live in Los Angeles or the Los Angeles area and want to invest out of state. in multifamily. So what a great thing to put together. What are some of the best practices for people who would like to start their own meetup group?
Sure. I would say one of the early things that I did, and I did this on accident more than I did this on purpose, but it ended up being one of the better things that I did, is that when you're thinking about starting a meetup group, you should individually go and meet other people who are potentially interested in this. So there was a number of different forums, Facebook groups, and things like that, where I asked, is anybody interested in meeting up just personally, just go meeting for dinner or coffee or lunch or something like that. And you meet with individual people, and then you tell them, after you get to know them, you tell them, I'm potentially going to start a meetup group. Is this something that you would be interested in if I held a meeting every Tuesday at 6 o'clock? And after you've meet 8 people or so, you're going to find that they're very excited to do it, and you just get them to come to your meetup group, come to the first one, because when they come to the first one, they will bring other people, and they'll be very excited to come and meet you again. And you've already developed a personal relationship with these people. So it's easier to bring them together for that first one. And that first one, you'll have 8 people, 6 people will come, and that will bring your momentum. That will feed your momentum to okay, we'll do it the next time. And the next time you may have 18 people come. And then basically you're on your way once you get to that. But I feel like if you start out strong with people that you already have a relationship with, and you've already met before, they have your interest, and you bring them together for that first one, that will really propel you to see that there will be the momentum going forward.
And what is the value of bringing all these people together? What does that provide?
The value of bringing that all together really is that, and this is the reason why I started it, is because I had gotten to a point in my real estate investing career where I was a bit of a lone wolf, and I felt like there was nobody I could really talk to about what I was doing. That was specifically about multifamily and specifically about out of state. You just don't find that many people in your everyday life that are that interested in what you're doing, and so I wanted to bring together, I wanted to meet other people. I wanted to engage with what they're doing, why are they doing this, and if there's any way I can help out. And then when you bring everybody together, now it's collectively, there's just a great amount of energy, and people just very excited to hear about what other people are doing, and you hear about other people's success, and it really propels you to continue to do what you're doing or to step up a level. So there's a tremendous amount of value in terms of just meeting other people and potentially partnering. There's, the ability to partner with people. There's the ability to just learn and find out other resources from other people, and to just keep that momentum going, keep that positive frame of mind of, you have a network of people that you can that supports what you're doing, and I think that's just incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and sometimes you find a deal through this type of group.
Yeah, I mean, if you start a meetup group, you end up becoming sort of the front person for that meetup group, and so people are going to bring you deals. People are going to ask you to look at deals. People, are going to ask you about partnering together, or they're going to ask you, what are they just want to hear from you as far as what you think about a particular deal. And so opportunities come up like that, where people will ask me, what do I think about this deal? What do I think about this location? What do I think about here? Or if I have any particular deal that I'm going to come across later that they might be interested in joining me as well. And so that's certainly a benefit of being the person that starts a meetup group. You become a focal point for the group.
Absolutely. And one of the other things I wanted to talk with you about before we wrap it up here is your morning routine. You have a kind of an interesting and creative outlook on what your morning routine should be. Yeah.
So for me, I've been doing what's called the Miracle Morning. It's by a book by Hal Elrod, where There are 6 different things that we do in the morning. So previous to this book, I was getting up in the morning and I was basically just checking my phone, looking at emails, looking at Facebook or looking at Google. And I was wondering, why am I waking up early? I hear that people who are high achievers, they wake up early and they get things done. So I was waking up early, but I was just checking my phone and I was thinking, what am I doing? Like, this is a waste of time. Like, why am I waking up so early just to check my phone and look at email? It doesn't really make me any more productive. And then I came across this book and Hal Elrod's book, and he gives some more structure to it. And so there's things like there's meditation, there's affirmations, there's visualization, exercise, reading, and writing. And he basically says, look, if you just do 10 minutes a day of each of these exercises for that hour, this can really change, give you structure and change, your whole day. And when you start in the morning and changing your whole morning, the rest of your day becomes a lot clearer. You get a lot more done. You're just in a better frame of mind to take on the obstacles that you'll face during the day. And so for me, it was a great thing. I mean, I was just at the point of in my life that I needed something like that. I needed that structure. And that to me has been something that I've been doing. I've been doing for over 2.5 years straight. So I haven't missed a day yet. And I don't plan on missing any day. But sometimes it's hard, when you travel and you take a red eye and you have to either get up early in the morning or you have to do some of it while you're on the plane, or you do some of it later in the day instead of in the morning. Whatever you can. But I've never missed a day, and certainly don't plan to miss a day. And I'm looking forward to celebrating my 1,000 day. I'll sort of maybe have a nice dinner or something like that just to celebrate my 1,000 day when that comes up as well.
And tell us again the author and the name of the book.
So, the name of the book is Miracle Morning, and his name is Hal Elrod.
Yeah, it sounds like a life-changing book.
To me, it is. And you have to be. What I tell people is you have to be ready for that. If you're ready for that, like you want to make your morning more productive, and you want that, it's a great book. But it does require that dedication. If you're not really ready yet to be dedicated to waking up early and doing some exercises, and getting outside of sort of your your normal frame of mind or your normal sleeping patterns, then it could be a little daunting. But if you're ready for it, it can be life-changing.
Any other advice that you might have for our listeners, especially those who are looking to get into multifamily investing?
One of the best things that I see is really to partner. If you can partner with somebody early on, and gravitate towards people that are doing it, it'll really help you feel that momentum that this can be done, and they'll give you a sense of direction to cut down your time in terms of what instead of fumbling around a lot and figuring it out on your own. In my previous, I would say that a lot of times I've been a lone wolf in my real estate investing career, but I'm really finding that, if you partner with people, it can really accelerate your path a lot faster. And you don't have to be a partner with that person forever. You can just, you can partner with that person, and you can always find other partners as well down the road. But I think that being open to the partnerships is very, very important if you want to accelerate your path.
And I want to make sure people know how to get a hold of you, starting with your meetup groups. How would they, if they're living in the Los Angeles area, what should they look for?
Yeah, if you're living in Los Angeles, if you go to Los Angeles out-of-state multifamily investors, I know it's a long name, it's a really long name, but that's the name of the meetup group that you can join. And again, it's free. So all of our events so far have been free. I mean, I think once a year we may hold a larger event where we'll bring all 3 meetup groups together, and we'll have a speaker come that will bring. So that we might charge for, but all the other meetups are free. And so that's a great place to connect with people in person and people locally to you. Also, if you're interested in just reaching out to me personally, my website is www.platinumequitypartners.com. People can go there and look at me personally. My email is just Powell, Powell, at platinumequitypartners.com. That's partners with an S. Oh, and also if people go to my website, there's a section on there where you can book a call with me. So I take these 30-minute calls, pretty much do them every day, maybe for an hour, that I just talk to people about investing. Anything that they have, a question, if any question they have is just, anything they want to talk about investing, about how to take the next steps, how to choose their market, how to raise money, anything that they're interested in talking about. If they have a specific deal that they just want to bounce some ideas off of, or a closing, how to do a closing, anything that they want to talk about, I'm happy to do so.
Oh, it's great that you do that. I really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciated learning about how you got into investing, how you started with your single family, and then immediately moved on to a 40 unit. The information you gave us on that 40 unit is invaluable to just learn from the process you went through. And I also really appreciate what you had to say about starting your own meetup groups and attending meetup groups and your morning rituals. So, Powell, it's been a fascinating conversation. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. It's been an honor to be on here.
This episode was sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And Mike Murphy at JB Harrison Insurance, helping real estate investors to understand and choose their best options for all their insurance needs. Call 616-868-0050 or email mikem@jbhins.com.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.